future now with the Texans?
Unfortunately, I hate to break it to the Texans fans, David Culley will not be coaching Deshaun Watson. My sources have told me that Deshaun Watson has requested a trade. He requested a trade several weeks ago. He's made it abundantly clear. I no longer want to play for this organization. And what I was told, I'm willing to play hardball in order to get my way out of here. He does not trust Cal McNair. He does not trust the front office. He doesn't like the culture in which they've cultivated in that organization. So he's like, I'm done. I'm out. And he hasn't said where he wants to go, but what I've told, he hopes to go somewhere where he doesn't have a Carmelo Anthony situation, where all the good players that he wants to play with, you have to get rid of them in order to get me. That defeats the purpose. But he made it abundantly clear to me, the source did, that he no longer wants to be in Texas. And that's bad news for the Houston Texans. Now, I believe they've already started the process, Skip, of going about trying to find a possible suitor, and how much can we extrapolate? Because he is one of the better quarterbacks. He's top 5, no worse than top 6 quarterbacks in the National Football League.
Absolutely.
And Todd McShay said he's only slightly better than Sam Darnold. I think Todd McShay might have bumped his head. And so, Skip, that's where they are. The source said, Shannon, at this point in time, there's no hire that they can make that I believe would make Deshaun change his mind. Because what happened is that they lied in the beginning. They swore to him they were going to keep him in the loop. And then all of a sudden, the loop got extremely small and the phone calls did not happen. He's like, I thought you guys were going to keep me in the loop. I thought what transpired, you're going to keep me every step along the way, you were going to keep me up to date. And that didn't happen. Once that didn't happen, once the minorities candidates were not being interviewed as they told him it was, it wasn't until, Skip, he voiced his displeasure that all of a sudden they circled back with Eric Bieniemy. And all of a sudden they wanted to interview some of these other guys. But I was also told some of these interviews that they say were going to happen, they never called. They never got a call. So at that point in time, I was told, Deshaun's like, I'm done. I got to go. And so that's where they are now, Skip. I believe there's a 99.5% chance Deshaun Watson will be traded. 99.5.
Right. I got it. 99.9 or 5?
99.5.
599?
Yes.
Okay, got it. You have been way ahead of this curve from the start because your sources have been impeccable on this in keeping me abreast of Deshaun's unhappiness.
Yes.
I have no issue with Deshaun's unhappiness because I have lots of issues with that culture in question in Houston, dating back to the late Robert McNair, who obviously owned and operated the team ahead of his son.
Yes.
Briefly, let's discuss David Culley.
Yes.
A hire that came completely out of the blue and out of left field. But fortunately, in one regard, he is African-American.
Correct.
So let's give them that much due that he is the only African-American head coach hired in this cycle. And we thought we were going to get shut out.
Yes.
And yet, out of the blue comes David Culley. Why am I familiar with David Culley? Only because he played quarterback at my school in the middle to late 70s, 75, 76, 77. He was a quarterback, played some quarterback on and off as a starting quarterback for Vanderbilt University in the Southeastern Conference.
Now you got a head coach.
Okay. He was not great. They went 7-4 his sophomore year, then 2-9, 2-9, because it's hard for Vanderbilt to compete in the Southeastern Conference. But every time there's been a big coaching vacancy at Vanderbilt, I always see his name pop up as a potential candidate. So I tried to keep up with him in the NFL, but he has been way, way, way under the radar in the NFL low these many years because he is now 65 years of age. So what do we just see happen? over the last 3 years, we have had a parade of 30-something white coaches come from nowhere and get head coaching jobs
Right.
after maybe a year or two as a quarterback coach or an offensive coordinator.
Correct.
In some cases, such as Brandon Staley, a defensive coordinator for 1 year, just 1 year only for the Rams, and suddenly he is the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers at age 38. And I'm like, how? Why?
Yes.
Show me what. Okay, so by all accounts, David Culley is highly respected because the people inside the game really know David Culley. Andy Reid used to rave about David Culley because what was he to Andy Reid? He was with him for years and years and years in Philadelphia and then on to Kansas City. In Philly, he graduated up to what was called senior offensive assistant to Andy Reid. And then once Andy went to Kansas City, he took him along as assistant head coach.
Right.
Okay, so I can make the case that as much as I like the resume of Eric Bieniemy, this resume stacks up with Eric's as it pertains to Andy Reid, who has raved in the past about David Culley. His positivity, his energy, how he's always the same every day. And the quote to Ed Werder of ESPN from John Harbaugh last night was, David is a genuine guy. He will be who he is every day. He's been that guy every day of his career. Great person, genuine, full of energy. Okay, so that's what you're getting. You're getting a rock.
Right.
There was also one other report that I read late last night that pointed out that David Culley helped coach Deshaun at last year's Pro Bowl because the Ravens staff was coaching the Pro Bowl.
Right.
You know how that works.
Yes.
And according to one report, they hit it off or clicked or whatever.
Right.
Okay, so my question is that we might not know the answer to at this moment.
Right.
Was Deshaun at all apprised of a potential David Culley hiring before they went ahead and made it official?
Well, I didn't know. He didn't mention that. I think the biggest thing, Skip, that really, from what I was told, that irked them was the hiring of the general manager.
Okay.
There's somebody in there, I think it's Jack Easterby. Easterby.
Yep.
Therein lies the problem.
Okay. And he's way up at the top of management.
Right. So
it was his choice, I think, and obviously with Cal McNair's blessing, to go get another New England connection, which was Nick Caserio as the GM. Again, in New England, Bill Belichick has final say and final decision.
Correct.
But Nick Caserio worked alongside Bill Belichick as the quote-unquote GM.
Right.
Okay?
But the source said that Deshaun was promised he would be kept abreast.
Yep.
He would be kept in the loop, the general manager and the head coach. That's what he was promised. He was promised that. All of a sudden, the recommendations come out who they're like, Louis Riddick and the guy from Pittsburgh. And
both minority candidates.
Yep. And then all of a sudden,
that was from the search firm that they paid who knows how much money to do their due diligence.
Do their due diligence, Skip. Then all of a sudden, there was no more phone calls, and basically, to make it, he went rogue.
He did.
Against the advice, it's kind of like against the advice of counsel, you did this.
Yep.
It's like, hold on, I thought you said you were. And then with the minority candidates, the minority candidates really didn't start getting interviewed until you started hearing the rumblings that Deshaun was upset. And then all of a sudden, hey, do you mind coming in? At that point in time, Deshaun says, no, all you're trying to do is this as a favor.
Because they went they reached for Leslie Frazier, and I believe they talked to Coach Caldwell, Jim Caldwell. And after the fact, and I think they had some kind of Zoom talk with Eric Bieniemy at some point.
But you didn't have it because, think about it, Skip, Eric Bieniemy was on the bye week because they were the only team that had to bye.
Yep.
They didn't call him during the bye week.
No.
You wait till after the fact. Now when you know your superstar quarterback, who you said you would keep apprised of what was going on, became upset. At that point in time, it had been waning. It had been dissipating, Skip.
Yep.
There were things that he had started to see within the organization that rubbed him the wrong way. And the more it exacerbated an already bad situation. And at this point in time, as you like to say about what Tom Brady has done to the Bucs, has brought them to a boil.
Yep.
What Skip is boiling. The pot's been on the stove for a substantial amount of time.
In the wrong way.
Right, and it's boiled over.
Mm-hmm. I got it. Okay, for the sake of the city of Houston, which I always love visiting Houston, I always have had a soft spot for Houston. Went there as a kid on vacation occasionally to the Astrodome, which was at 9th or 10th.
Well, the 8th,
whatever it was. The Astros scandal, the James Harden debacle. Now, he's a net, obviously, and here comes Deshaun. It's been a rough run for those fans.
Yes.
Would I like to see it work out that Deshaun was staying? Sure, I would, but I don't have.
No.
I have little to no respect for the culture that's been built there. So could David Culley turn it around? I'm going to doubt it.
Yeah, it's good, Skip. You know how hard it is, and that's what happens. A lot of times, what Tony Dungy did is that he set Jim Caldwell up in a perfect situation. They were still loaded. Mm-hmm. That's why they were able to go 14-2 and get back to the Super Bowl, because he still had Peyton, he still had Reggie Wayne, he still had some players. Normally, these black coaches, they get these jobs, and it's great. It's only 1 of 32. But if you don't have that guy that's pulling the trigger, Skip, you're wasting your time. You ain't winning. You can't win without that guy.
Well, if Deshaun is going to force his way out, and I have no issue with that because he deserves to force his way out, it's going to have to get ugly to do so because he's just going to have to hold out.
Yeah, he got good.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But then I'm going to really feel sorry for poor David Culley at age 65, finally gets his dream breakthrough job. And guess what's left in Houston? Nothing.
Nothing.
Right?
No.
Because I think J.J. Watt's on his way out as the face of the franchise. And yet, I'm happy David is getting the opportunity because he has never been a coordinator except, remember, he had a long stint in college football for 2 years at UTEP, University of Texas, El Paso. He was the offensive coordinator. But in pro football, he's only been sort of the assistant to Andy Reid type.
But, Skip, I still think this hire came out of nowhere because in the beginning of the process, you heard the cast of characters. I didn't hear David Culley. I heard Leslie Frazier. I heard Jim Caldwell. I heard Eric Bieniemy. I heard a few, obviously, Robert Saleh. You hear a few, but I didn't hear this guy. Now,
I even heard us talk about why isn't Pep Hamilton?
Right, exactly. But I didn't hear of this guy. And Skip, like I said, I don't know David Culley. And hopefully he does a great job. But as you mentioned, John Harbaugh speaks glowingly of him. Andy Reid speaks glowingly of him. So I know Big Red a little bit. Know John Harbaugh, been around him when I go back there. He's always great to me. So I'm going to take them at their word that says this guy's going to be good or he's a great man. But, Skip, you know, without a quarterback, it's hard to win in this league.
Yep. And without any credentials and at age 65, will you just be happy to be there to the point that you'll do their bidding, you know, whatever they say, where you won't be able to stand up to management and say, no, we can't do it that way?
No,
I'm afraid that they might have chosen David Culley because they know he won't buck their system, right?
Well,
because he can't.
Yeah, Skip, think about it. Doug Peterson got fired because he bucked.
He did.
Because he wouldn't fire and hire guys that they wanted him to. And he won a Super Bowl.
Yep.
So how, with less credentials than winning a Super Bowl, can you stand up to an organization that says, we want him, but not him? We want that instead of this. You can't. And a coach once told me, Shannon, he told me like this, Skip. He said, I would rather lose my way than win someone else's. Because you're going to fire me eventually when it doesn't work out. At least let me go down with a way that I feel comfortable with the people that I feel comfortable around me. He says, because soon as it stops, you're not going to say, well, I told him to hire him, or I told him to fire that one. You're not going to say that. You're going to say the job didn't get done. Everybody going to look at me, well, you're right, it didn't get done. But you're not going to say, my whole staff was people that you told me to get. So I wish David Culley nothing but the best, Skip.
Okay.
But unfortunately, I don't believe he's going to have Deshaun Watson.
All right. So bottom line, from what you've heard,
yes,
are you willing and able to leap to the conclusion that if the team digs in and says, we can't get enough for you, we got to go forward with you? Because obviously he's under contract now for what's the next 4 years.
I was told he's willing to play hardball, whatever hardball is. That's, Skip, you know, we growing up, we play hardball. Okay, let's go play hardball. That means instead of with the big softball, we play with a baseball. So in other words, whatever it takes, if it means he has to hold out, that's the only leverage that he has.
That's the only leverage.
But what he does have, because here's the thing, Skip, he has a no trade. So you can say, well, we want to trade you over here. Well, I don't want to go over there. Now what you going to do? And plus, teams know Deshaun is unhappy. They know he's unhappy.
Well, he's made it clear.
And
You've made it clear.
And guess what else he got, Skip? I already got about $80 million of y'all dollars, so I can sit this thing down for a cool minute. I can sit this thing down for a cool minute.
What's your gut on where he would like to go? I hear a lot of
keep the
Jets
Jets.
talk. Yep.
What I heard is, like I said, Shannon, and the analogy that they used was Carmelo. That says, because if he gets somewhere and all the players that are there that could help him win get shipped back to the team that he's coming from, what actually have they accomplished? He wants to go somewhere that they don't have to give up everything to get him. Now, it's going to take a king's ransom. Now, Jets have the number 2 pick. Miami has the number 3 pick, which actually belongs to the Houston Texans.
Yep.
So we keep hearing that Brian Flores is extremely happy with Tua. But if an opportunity arose for him to get Deshaun Watson, I don't know how you pass that. Skip, if you get a chance to get one of those guys, Skip, it's like a starting pitcher. If you get an opportunity, if you had an opportunity to get one of these great Pedro Martinez, you moved Randy Johnson, or Greg Maddux, you get a chance to get that guy? What is he, 27?
Yep. I'm going to reiterate my stance on this one last time, and that is Jacksonville, our man Urban Meyer, now at the controls. First pick in the draft. If Houston would trade me straight up for Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun for Trevor Lawrence, I would do it if I were Jacksonville, because it's the trade that could benefit both teams, because I believe Deshaun will ultimately be better than Trevor Lawrence. That's just me.
Yeah, absolutely. And with $85, $90 million in cap space in the state of Florida, absolutely.
Give me that. And then Houston could start fresh and start over with the apple of everybody's eye in the draft. This is the kid that we've talked about for maybe 6-8 years since he was back in high school in the Atlanta area that he's going to have next. Okay, so Houston could start fresh and they could have Deshaun in Jacksonville, and I think they would get good real fast.
Oh yeah, if Urban is in, if he has 80% of the success in the NFL that he had in college, he gonna be great. He might be the next Jimmy Johnson because he's won everywhere he's been. He won at Bowling Green, he won at Utah, he won at Florida, he won at Ohio State. Now it's a big difference, Skip, because you know at Ohio State and Florida you can recruit. You get the creme de la creme.
I got it, but he turned every one of those programs around in the first year.
Yes. Okay. I believe Deshaun is gone. I feel very comfortable.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.